Welcome, curious listeners, to the Deep Dive. Today, we're unraveling a really profound truth about creativity. It's a concept that often feels, well, counterintuitive, maybe even a bit uncomfortable, but it's something that really holds the key to unlocking true innovation. See, most of us are hardwired to avoid it, to fear it, to see it as like an absolute endpoint. I'm talking about failure. But what if that common perception is just entirely wrong? What if failure wasn't the end of the road at all? Not some definitive judgment on our capabilities, but actually a powerful beginning, maybe even a necessary one. We're going to challenge that whole notion head on today.
Our mission in this deep dive is to explore what we're calling the art of creative failure. Now, the phrase itself, like I said, it feels a bit like an oxymoron, doesn't it? Especially when we think about creative work, where the stakes feel so personal, so tied up with our identity. And yet, the history of innovation, across every field you can imagine, is just littered with instances where missteps, rejections, outright flops. They didn't just precede success, they actively forged it. So we're going to unpack exactly how artists, writers, innovators, the very people pushing boundaries and redefining what's possible, how they've masterfully transformed their biggest disappointments, their most significant setbacks, turned them into crucial stepping stones for really profound achievement and, frankly, breathtaking originality. Our insights today are drawn from a really fascinating text on this exact subject. It looks at how resilience, adaptation, and a critical shift in perspective are forged in what the source beautifully calls the crucible of creative challenge. And to make this really concrete, we'll dive into a compelling case study, a journey that's so widely known, but maybe not always seen through this particular transformative lens.
You've hit on such a crucial point right out of the gate. In this dynamic, often unpredictable realm of creativity, what we so readily label as failure, well, it's very rarely a true dead end, honestly. It's far more often a pivotal redirection point, a signal maybe that the path you're on needs adjustment, or perhaps that an entirely new, maybe more fertile path awaits. And the why behind this transformation is just fascinating. Setbacks inherently force a necessary reevaluation. They compel us to pause, to scrutinize our assumptions, our process, our very vision even. And this often leads us in unexpected directions, frequently more fruitful ones, directions we simply wouldn't have considered if everything had just, flowed smoothly right from the start.
No friction, no change.
Exactly. And this isn't just about bouncing back from adversity, which, let's be honest, is impressive enough. This is about actively leveraging the raw material of disappointment, that moment of feeling defeated or stuck, using that as the very fuel for innovation itself.
So taking the bad stuff and making something good from it.
Precisely. It's about taking what didn't work and consciously forging something entirely new, something better from it. So throughout this deep dive, we'll be looking for the specific mechanisms. How does this transformation actually happen? We want to make it actionable for you, our listener, in your own creative pursuits. How do you, quite literally, design for failure? How do you operationalize this idea that failure isn't a flaw, but maybe a feature?
That idea of designing for failure is so powerful, expert. And it immediately clashes, doesn't it, with how most of us are taught to think. When we think about failure, the prevailing societal view is almost universally negative. From school grades to career stuff, it's seen as a sign of inadequacy, a misstep to be hidden, maybe be ashamed of, and definitely something to be avoided at all costs.
Right, it's ingrained pretty early on.
It really is. We're taught from a young age that success is the goal, and anything less is. Well, just less. But this radical idea in our source material completely flips that script. It argues that failure can serve as a powerful catalyst for growth and innovation. Okay, let's unpack this. Failure as a catalyst. What does that truly mean?
Yeah.
Think about a catalyst in like a chemical reaction. It's something that speeds up or enables a reaction, but it doesn't get consumed by it.
Good analogy.
Yeah, so in the context of creativity, it means the failure isn't something that destroys your project or your potential. Instead, it actually accelerates your learning. It propels you forward. It makes the whole creative process maybe more efficient and effective in the long run.
Because it gives you immediate feedback, right? Undeniable feedback.
Exactly. Unlike just passive learning, a failed experiment, or a rejected proposal, or even just a creative block. It forces you to reevaluate your assumptions, to question your methods, and often it leads to a really rapid pivot. Think about, say, a software developer debugging code. Each error message, each crash, it's like a mini failure, right? But it points directly to a flaw.
Accelerating the path to a fix.
Right, much faster than just theoretical planning could ever achieve. So it's not just enduring it, not just passively surviving failure. It's actively using it, leveraging the pain, the disappointment, the lessons hidden inside that experience to drive you towards something better, something fundamentally stronger. And this deep dive, hopefully, will demonstrate how this shift in perspective is actually possible, moving from this kind of abstract idea of failure is good to, practical things you can use in your own life and work.
You're absolutely right that our fear of failure, which is so deeply ingrained psychologically and societally, it often acts as a huge inhibitor to true creative exploration. If we're constantly trying to avoid making mistakes, if we're aiming for perfection right out of the gate,
Which is impossible.
usually, yeah, we'll inevitably stick to what's safe, what's known, what's been done before, and that just stifles the very experimentation and risk-taking that are absolutely essential for any kind of genuine creative breakthrough. Think about it. Every truly original idea, every novel solution, every groundbreaking piece of art, it started as an experiment. And experiments, just by their nature, often don't work the first time, or the second, or sometimes even the 10th.
Yeah, it's messy.
It's very messy. And what's fascinating here is how revolutionary it is to truly embrace failure. Not as a flaw or a bug in the system, but as an intentional design feature of the creative process. And this isn't just like a philosophical stance. It means maybe building prototypes early and often, setting mini deadlines for failed iterations, viewing creative blocks not as dead ends, but as signals that, okay, a different approach is needed here.
So it fundamentally shifts your whole mindset.
It does. From striving for that initial perfection to embracing iterative refinement right from the start, breakthroughs often lie just beyond that point of perceived failure. It requires a willingness to push past the initial disappointment, that first no, that unexpected roadblock. It's about building a robust feedback loop into your creative practice, really, where every didn't work becomes data for the next question. Okay, how might I make this better?
Right. It's learning in action.
Exactly. It's a necessary step on the path to innovation, a form of active rather than passive learning.
Okay, so if this deep-seated fear is holding us back, how do we actively dismantle it? Or maybe even better, transform it into something useful? Our source suggests we start by redefining the word itself. And to bring this concept to life, let's turn to a truly illustrative case study. It's a story you probably know, though maybe not quite in this transformative light. We're talking about the illustrious journey of J.K. Rowling.
Yes, a classic
Yeah.
example.
Right. Her name is now completely synonymous with global literary success, the whole enchanting world of Harry Potter. It's hard to even imagine a world without Hogwarts, without the boy who lived. But what many people forget, or maybe just don't know, is the almost insurmountable initial challenge she faced before any of that magic reached readers. After she completed the first manuscript for Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or Sorcerer's Stone in the US, she encountered, and the source uses this word, numerous rejections from literary agents.
Numerous.
This wasn't just one or two polite no thank you notes from, an overwhelmed inbox. The source specifies it was a string of no thank you replies. Just imagine for a moment, pouring years of your life, your passion, your soul into a project, creating an entire universe from your imagination.
Characters, spells, intricate backstories.
Everything, only to be met with constant, repetitive dismissal from the gatekeepers of the publishing world. It's not just discouraging, it's got to be profoundly soul-crushing.
Oh, absolutely.
Each rejection could so easily feel like a definitive statement. This isn't good enough. You're not good enough. Your dream, invalid. The sheer volume and the emotional weight of these rejections for an aspiring author, it's almost unfathomable. It's this unique kind of silence, isn't it?
Yeah.
A lack of engagement that just speaks volumes. So the crucial question, the absolute turning point that defines her art of creative failure is this. What did J.K. Rowling do instead of just giving up? What was her critical choice when faced with such overwhelming negative feedback, or maybe just the lack of positive feedback?
Host, you've really hit on a core aspect of this story, and it's important to analyze the context of literary rejections here. They're incredibly common in publishing. I mean, countless brilliant manuscripts never see the light of day.
That's a sobering thought in itself.
It is, but that fact doesn't make them any less personally devastating to the author who receives them. The anonymity of the rejection letter, often just a form letter.
Right, no real feedback offer.
Exactly. The lack of specific feedback, the feeling that your deepest creative dreams are being just casually dismissed, it's a profound blow. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, Rowling's experience isn't unique in its adversity. Many aspiring authors face similar, maybe even greater challenges. What is unique and what makes her case so instructive for our deep dive today is her profound response to it.
Okay, so what was that response?
Well, the source material makes it really clear. Instead of quitting, instead of abandoning her dream, she used this feedback to refine her story.
Hmm.
That's the critical shift. She didn't just endure the rejections, she leveraged them. Even if the feedback was just silence or a form letter no.
Exactly. Even if the feedback was implicitly conveyed through that consistent rejection rather than explicit criticism, she took it on board.
Yeah.
And this engagement ultimately led to the publication of one of the most successful book series in history. The critical turning point wasn't simply finding the right agent, although obviously that was a necessary practical step. It was the internal process she underwent after each no.
Okay.
It was that transition from passively receiving no thank you to actively using that implied feedback, that consistent lack of enthusiasm, to critically evaluate and actually improve her work.
So it wasn't just luck or waiting it out.
Not at all. It was about actively engaging with the criticism, even if it was just that deafening silence of disinterest or maybe the brief, generic comments that sometimes come with rejections. And this raises a really important question for all of us, I think. How do we differentiate between dismissive rejection that offers nothing, really, and feedback that, even indirectly, offers a crucial path to improvement? Yeah, how do you find the signal in all that noise of disappointment?
Exactly. How do you translate that into actionable insight for your own projects? That's the tricky part.
Expert, that is such a powerful distinction. It's not just about what happened to her, but what she did with what happened. And her journey gives us these three really profound takeaways. Three fundamental pillars of creative resilience that I think we can all learn from and actively cultivate in our own lives. First, there's resilience, the power to endure and persist.
Crucial.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The source defines resilience, as demonstrated by Rowling, as her perseverance in the face of rejection. It sounds almost mythical, doesn't it? To keep going when every external sign, every gatekeeper is basically telling you to stop. But the key here is the direct, almost alchemical impact of that perseverance. The source says, each no fueled her determination to improve her craft.
Fueled her. That's powerful.
Isn't it? It didn't deflate her. It didn't shut her down. It became this sort of perverse source of energy, a profound challenge to rise to. Imagine that every door slammed in your face, instead of crushing your spirit, actually ignites a deeper fire within you to make your work just undeniably compelling. So what does this mean for you, our listener? How can you cultivate this same level of perseverance when your own creative projects hit those inevitable roadblocks, those moments of doubt or outright dismissal? Think of resilience not just as bouncing back, maybe, but as bouncing forward, like a muscle, right? Resilience grows stronger not by avoiding hardship, but by engaging with each challenge, learning to adapt, choosing to persist. You build a deeper capacity for future obstacles that way. It's about building a greater tolerance for discomfort and uncertainty, knowing that the other side holds growth.
You're absolutely right, host. And it's not about being immune to the pain of rejection or disappointment. Let's be clear on that.
Yeah, that pain is real.
It's absolutely real, and it's important to acknowledge it. Resilience in creative work is about acknowledging that pain, processing it maybe through reflection, or talking to trusted advisors, or even just taking a brief pause and then, despite it, consciously choosing to continue. It's about not letting that temporary setback define your ultimate trajectory.
Right.
Psychologically, maintaining a belief in your own vision, especially when there's zero external validation, is incredibly difficult, but it's absolutely key. It requires a deep well of self-trust, an unwavering commitment to your initial inspiration, and often a very acute awareness of your why. Why are you doing this in the first place?
That why is so important.
It is. And what's fascinating here, going back to Rowling, is how she didn't just bounce back to where she was before, she actually bounced forward. The negative experience wasn't just a return to baseline. It was a powerful catalyst that propelled her further, pushing her to refine and improve in ways she might not have if success had just come easily.
Interesting. So the setback actually made the final product stronger.
Arguably, yes. This kind of setback often serves a vital purpose. It clarifies your purpose and your commitment. It strips away any superficial motivations, leaving only that pure, unadulterated drive to see your creative vision come to fruition. It's the difference between saying, oh, I kind of want to be a writer, and knowing deep down I must write this story come what may.
That deep, clarified purpose that leads us perfectly into the second pillar, adaptation, the skill of strategic adjustment. So resilience gets you to stay in the game, right? But adaptation helps you win it.
Good way to put it.
In Rowling's case, the source tells us that by taking constructive criticism to heart, she adjusted her writing. Now, this wasn't just minor tweaking like a cosmetic change here or there. This was fundamental structural improvement. It wasn't about changing her story just to please one specific agent who said no. It was about enhancing its core strengths. Things like enhancing character development and plot structure.
The fundamentals.
Exactly. Think about the humility and the self-awareness required there. To have poured so much into something and then facing consistent rejection, to step back and say, okay, where can I make this better? Where is the disconnect happening? This really illustrates the crucial difference between just being stubborn, rigidly clinging to an initial vision, even when it's clearly not working, and strategic adaptation, allowing your vision to evolve and flourish through that iterative refinement.
Right.
This might have involved, deepening the psychological motivations of her characters, making sure their decisions felt totally organic to who they were, or maybe tightening the narrative pacing, making each chapter propel the reader forward with more urgency.
Dissecting why something wasn't connected.
Yeah, why a scene or a character wasn't landing, and then rebuilding it with a clear purpose.
Yeah.
So the question for the listener is, when was the last time you truly took external feedback, even if it was indirect, like a string of rejections, and used it to fundamentally change your approach? Not just your mood, but your actual approach. It's a rare and powerful skill, isn't it? A real hallmark of creative mastery.
Host, the role of feedback in adaptation is absolutely critical, even, as you noted, when that feedback is indirect or just implied by silence. A rejection isn't just a no, it's data. It's a signal, however vague it might seem, that something isn't connecting with its intended audience, or, at least not with a particular gatekeeper at that moment.
Okay, so it's information, even if it's negative information.
Exactly. And the ability to adapt isn't just about making changes, it's about making the right changes. And that requires not only humility, but also a really objective look at one's own work, which, let's face it, is notoriously difficult for any creator. How do you step outside yourself and critically assess your own brainchild?
Almost impossible sometimes.
It feels like it. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, this ability to adapt is a hallmark of truly innovative minds, not just in writing, but across all creative fields. Think about the iterative cycles in product development and tech, or constant experimentation in scientific research, or just the evolution of an artist's style over their career.
Right, things rarely arrive perfect.
Exactly. The most impactful creations are rarely born fully formed. They are iterated upon, refined, reshaped through cycles of experimentation, feedback, and adaptation. Now, the challenge, of course, is discerning useful feedback from just unhelpful criticism or maybe just a difference in taste.
Yeah, how do you know which no to listen to?
Right. And that requires a strong sense of self-awareness and a deep understanding of your own core creative intentions. It's about knowing what to keep sacred to your vision and what to change to make it land effectively.
Okay, that makes sense. Which brings us to the third pillar, and this one feels maybe the most challenging, but also the most transformative. It's perspective, reframing disappointment as opportunity.
The mindset piece.
Exactly. This is Rowling's ability, as the source puts it, to view failure as a learning opportunity rather than an endpoint. This is where that mental martial art of creativity we mentioned earlier really comes into play. It's not just a cool metaphor, it's a practice. It means developing specific cognitive techniques, right? Like dispassionately analyzing feedback, reframing negative self-talk, cultivating a disciplined approach to iteration.
Consciously choosing your response.
Yes. How do you consciously flip the script on something that feels inherently negative? Something that feels like a personal failure, a blow to your identity as a creator? The powerful outcome of this reframing for Rowling was that it enabled her to maintain her creative momentum. It prevented discouragement from totally derailing her, from leading to burnout or just abandoning the project.
Kept her going.
Kept her going. It's about consciously choosing the narrative you tell yourself when things go wrong. Do you tell yourself, I failed, I'm not good enough, this dream is over? Or do you tell yourself, okay, this didn't work yet, but it showed me something important about my craft or my approach, and now I know how to make it better, stronger, more resonant? I really encourage you, the listener, to consider the immense power of your internal narrative when you face setbacks in your own creative life. It can literally be the difference between giving up and achieving your true, often unexpected potential.
Host, this point on perspective brings us right into the realm of the growth mindset, which is just so crucial for any sustained creative pursuit. For listeners familiar with Carol Dweck's work, the growth mindset isn't just about thinking positively. It's about understanding that our creative capacities, like any skill, aren't fixed. They can be developed through dedication, through hard work.
So you're not just talented or not talented.
Exactly. When you adopt a growth mindset, you see setbacks not as definitive judgments on your inherent talent, but as data points. Data points in an ongoing experiment. This allows for much more productive self-talk, like, okay, this draft didn't work yet. What specific elements can I strengthen? Rather than collapsing into, I'm just not a good writer.
That's a huge difference.
Huge. Seeing setbacks as data points for learning is really the antidote to creative burnout. It fosters this continuous cycle of improvement rather than that stop-start experience punctuated by periods of despair. And this raises an important practical question for everyone trying to cultivate this learning opportunity perspective. What are the specific mental exercises or thought patterns you can adopt to consciously shift from a fixed mindset where failure means I am bad to a growth mindset where failure means I learned something significant?
What could those be?
Well, it could be as simple as regularly asking yourself, what is this trying to teach me every single time something doesn't go as planned? Or consciously reframing a mistake as an experiment or maybe a prototype iteration.
Changing the language you use.
Exactly. This conscious shift allows for continuous progress and helps avoid that paralysis of perfectionism that stops so many people before they even start.
That's a profound distinction, expert, and it leads us perfectly to a really powerful affirmation that kind of encapsulates this entire philosophy of the art of creative failure.
Yeah.
It's a statement from our source material that I truly believe everyone involved in creative work should maybe internalize, perhaps even write down, put it somewhere visible. It goes like this. I embrace my failures as essential parts of my creative journey. Each setback teaches me something valuable and brings me closer to my true potential.
That's potent.
Isn't it? Just listen to those active verbs again. Embrace, teaches, brings me closer. This isn't passive acceptance of bad things happening. It's not a resigned sigh. It's an active, conscious integration of those experiences into your growth process. It's a declaration that you will not let disappointment diminish you. Instead, you'll allow it to define and strengthen you.
Owning it.
Owning it. It's the difference between being a victim of circumstance and becoming an active architect of your own creative evolution. I really encourage you to internalize this affirmation. Say it to yourself. Feel its resonance. Consider its power in your own life, especially when you feel that familiar sting of a project not going as planned or a rejection landing in your inbox. It's really a statement of self-empowerment.
The psychological benefits of affirmations like that are indeed well documented. They really can help to rewire our automatic, often negative responses to perceived failures. So instead of immediately defaulting to self-criticism or giving up or feeling paralyzed, they can program us to look for the lesson, to actively seek the opportunity embedded within the setback.
Shifting the default reaction.
Precisely. And what's fascinating here is the fundamental shift it represents, moving away from seeking external validation. Waiting for someone else to tell you your work is good enough or that your idea has merit, and shifting towards focusing on internal learning and growth. The true potential described in that affirmation, it's unlocked not despite failures, but actually because of them.
Wow.
It's that iterative process of trial, error, learning, refinement. That's what builds true mastery and originality. Consistently applying this mindset, really living by this affirmation, can lead to a more resilient, more adaptable, and ultimately a far more successful and fulfilling creative life. You stop being sort of a victim of creative circumstance, and you become an active architect of your own growth, transforming obstacles into stepping stones. It's genuinely transformative.
Okay, now for arguably the most important part of any deep dive. The practical application for you, the listener. It's not enough to just hear about these concepts, right? We want you to integrate them into your own creative journey, to actively cultivate your own art of failure, Surfinal. And our source material provides some really excellent reflective questions to help you do just that. Questions designed to spark genuine self-inquiry and practical strategizing.
Getting practical.
Exactly. The first question is, can you think of a time when a failure led you to a breakthrough in your creative process? What did you learn from that experience?
Really pause and consider that. Was there a project that completely flopped, a pitch that got rejected, an idea that fell flat? But in that moment of acute disappointment, did you unexpectedly see a different path, a better way forward, a crucial insight you wouldn't have gained otherwise?
Because that had to be huge, right? No, not at all. It might not be some grand revelation, but just a subtle shift in approach or understanding that made all the difference later on. The second question asks, how do you typically respond to disappointment in your creative endeavors? What strategies can you adopt to turn those feelings into motivation? Be honest with yourself here. Are you someone who retreats into self-doubt? Do you get angry or frustrated, procrastinate, maybe even self-sabotage by abandoning the project entirely?
We all have our
You
patterns.
do. Or maybe you already have some mechanisms in place to cope. And crucially, what new intentional strategies can you build into your process to transform those negative emotions into something productive, something that actually propels you forward? This is all about self-awareness and conscious choice. And finally, the third question, in what ways can you incorporate feedback from your failures to enhance your future projects? Hmm. This is where the rubber meets the road, really. The transition from reflection to action. It's about being proactive, building systematic ways to harvest the insights from what didn't work.
Making it part of the process.
Exactly. It's not just about surviving failure, but about actively seeking out its lessons and integrating them into your workflow moving forward. So I really encourage you to actively engage with these questions. Maybe grab a journal, find a quiet space, set aside 10 minutes, or even discuss them with a trusted creative partner or mentor. This isn't just about passively listening to a deep dive. It's about active learning, continuous self-improvement, and profoundly changing your relationship with the creative process itself. These questions are a direct invitation to start practicing that mental martial art we talked about.
Reinforcing the importance of self-reflection here is absolutely crucial, host. These questions aren't just theoretical exercises. They are practical tools for developing the very resilience, adaptation, and perspective we've spent this time discussing. They force you to turn inward, analyze your experiences with honesty, and then extrapolate lessons that can actually be applied moving forward.
Making it concrete.
Making it concrete. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this kind of deliberate self-assessment is fundamental to any iterative process, which creativity undoubtedly is. To make it even more concrete, maybe you could consider creating something like an inquiry-based failure log or a lessons learned portfolio from past disappointments.
Oh, I like that. A failure log.
Right. Document what happened, how you felt in the moment, what you initially thought the failure meant, and then, most importantly, what specific actionable insights you gleaned from it. What would you do differently next time? What assumption was challenged? What did you learn about your process or even yourself? This transforms that abstract frustration into concrete intelligence. It allows you to build on every experience, positive or negative, making each setback a true investment in your future growth.
As we wrap up this deep dive into the art of creative failure, I really hope it's abundantly clear now that failure, well, it's not the opposite of success. It is, in fact, an integral and indispensable part of the creative process itself.
Right.
It's not some detour on the map to success. It is part of the map. By embracing our disappointments, by choosing to see them not as definitive verdicts, but as valuable, even essential lessons, we can truly transform them into profound opportunities for unparalleled growth and innovation. Thank you so much for joining us on this fascinating journey today and for daring to reconsider something so fundamental, something we often shy away from.
And as you reflect on what we've discussed today, I do want to leave you with a final, maybe provocative thought to mull over. If every setback truly contains the seeds of future success, what failures are you currently avoiding right now? What are you putting off or maybe shying away from that might actually hold your next great breakthrough?
Ooh, good question.
Maybe it's that creative project you abandoned halfway through, or that daring idea you never even started because you feared it wouldn't be perfect right away. How might your relationship with perfectionism be hindering your path to unexpected, maybe even radical innovation? How might it be preventing you from even starting that essential cycle of trial and error? This is an ongoing journey, this whole process of learning and discovery. And every creative endeavor, successful or not, adds to your unique tapestry of experience. It makes you a more capable, more insightful, and ultimately a more truly original creator.
Absolutely. The conversation about creativity and resilience is truly endless, and we'll definitely continue exploring fascinating intersections like this in future deep dives. Until next time, keep creating, keep learning, and maybe, just maybe, don't be afraid to fail forward.